Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Leslie Gadet, self-care strategist for female entrepreneurs. I am super passionate about burnout prevention, and it's why I'm on a mission to help female entrepreneurs and their teams infuse self-care into their businesses so that they and their team members can avoid burnout, sustain motivation, and thrive together both personally and professionally. Because self-care should not just be a personal endeavor, quality of life should also be inside the business as well. That way, I'm hoping that instead of hearing I hate my job, people are more like, I really love my job because we take care of each other, we look out for each other. Self-care is important. We look at ways to make sure that we're working efficiently with our time, but it's not about how much we can crank out, but making sure that we're healthy and happy in our positions. And I think that's really important. So today I want to talk to you about burnout and why it's so important to learn to recognize the signs, but also to support yourself through self-care so that you have more quality of life, right? As I was saying, outside of your business, but also inside your business. So let's first start with the hidden costs of neglecting self-care, particularly as it pertains to mental health and productivity. The problem that I am seeing is that if you are neglecting self-care, that can lead to chronic stress, which significantly increases the risk of burnout. And burnout can manifest as physical exhaustion, emotional fatigue, a sense of reduced accomplishment, severely impacting your mental health. And as I was saying, not only physical exhaustion, but also in other ways. Like when I had burnout, part of it was stress, obviously stress related. My body started to push back on me, and I developed hives, and started also, I developed an intolerance to lactose. And I was in my early 20s thinking that I could be all, do all. And I was move, push, pushing through my days, thinking that I was so motivated, that I had all the energy in the world, but it caught up to me because I was doing it day in and day out. Now, burnout also, when you also neglect your self-care, it can really have it can really affect your productivity, right? So the ability for you to concentrate and make decisions, think creatively becomes compromised because you are not feeling yourself. At least a decreased productivity, and then your tasks become no longer are you're no longer able to complete your tasks as efficiently as before. They're often of lower quality. The other thing is an impaired physical health. So lack of self-care can lead to poor physical health, including sleep disturbances, your weakened immune system. You might find yourself getting sick a lot, increased risk of chronic diseases, which further impacts mental health and productivity. And continuous neglect of your self-care can lead to heightened anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues, making it really hard to maintain a positive outlook and manage your stress effectively. So if you are a woman who has a team, imagine if that's all that you and your team are push, and you are not taking care of yourself. You do not have a self-care consistent practice within your daily routine in at work and at home. It's going to catch up with you. And the mental and emotional strain can also affect your personal and your professional relationships, leading to social withdrawal and isolation, which can then further exacerbate your mental health issues. So, what's the solution? Well, it begins with embracing self-care as a tool for your improved mental health and your productivity. By you incorporating essential self-care tools into your daily lifestyle, it's going to help you, like taking regular breaks and time off. So implementing regular breaks throughout your day, allowing yourself to let your brain recharge, to reset and recharge, to, I like to say, digest the information that you fed it. Just like your body, you feed it with food. You need to give your body time to digest the food before you eat anything else. It's the same thing for your brain. You need to allow it to fully digest what you've given it, at least giving it some time to digest, to reset, and you can get back at it with more focus. And taking time from work, like off of work, that can significantly reduce stress levels. You boost your creativity and improve overall productivity. Taking time off, like regular vacations. When was the last time you actually took time off where work wasn't part of the time off, meaning you went on vacation and you didn't take work with you. You actually took time off to enjoy your vacation with the people that you're on vacation with. And that's a real good question because a lot of the time we're not doing that, right? We're actually still scheduling in office hours within our time off. Physical activity and nutrition is important. So engaging in regular physical activity, and then also maintaining a balanced diet. In other words, for me, I know a lot of people think the word diet is a bad four-letter word, but it's really about a lifestyle choice of how you feed your body. And especially when you are working on tasks that need your full attention, you want to feed your body, or as my friend's 4-year-old son would say, eat for energy, to help contribute to better mental health and productivity. And you also want to establish clear boundaries between work and personal life, right? Like I was saying, going on vacation, can you take time to actually enjoy yourself and set clear boundaries around your time so that you don't have work involved in any part of that. Now, if you go for like months at a time, of course, I understand you're probably going to put some work in there. But if you're going on a week's vacation, a 2 weeks vacation, could there be a moment where you could actually think, how could I strategize this so that my vacation is mine? That time belongs to me alone and the people that I'm with. So you enjoy yourself and you prevent burnout, and you ensure that your time is allocated, for that enjoyment, for building those bonds, and for self-care. Also, seeking support from your network, whether that's professional, your professional network. I have, people in my circle, in my inner circle, my professional circle. And then I also have like near and dear, like inner circle friends that I go to for that emotional support. They can also provide strategies for managing stress, right? And improving your mental health, because you go to them. And when you go to someone and you're looking for help, they're going to want to help you because you're close. That's the bond that you've built with them. So how can we understand burnout more? So first, let's talk about where the term came from in the first place. The term burnout was coined in the 70s by American psychologist Herbert Freudenberger. He used it to describe the consequences of severe stress. Now, psychologists Herbert Freudenberger and Gail North developed what they call the 12 stages of burnout that they believe are affecting so many working professionals today who believe they are adopting the work harder model, trying to prove themselves at the expense of their physical and emotional well-being. Today, I'm going to briefly cover 4 stages of burnout, which framework is just a simplified version of the original model, which was created around the 12 stages, and it was later adopted by other authors and researchers. So the 4 stages of burnout I'm going to talk about today are the honeymoon phase, onset of stress, chronic stress and burnout, and stage 4, crisis and burnout syndrome. So stage 1 is really where you experience enthusiasm, the honeymoon phase, right? You're working on something. Maybe it's a new project for you and your team, and it's something new. Maybe you are, you're starting to expand your business, whatever that looks like for you, and you are trying to get all the pieces together, and you have a deadline. You have a deadline that you've set for yourself, and now and this is where you're excited and you feel like you have all the energy, because that's where the excited energy comes from, right? So you find that you might find yourself pushing through to meet your deadlines without taking those breaks, and you'll maybe even ignore signs of stress or fatigue, and because you're excited, right? And so and it's understandable, but this is the first stage. And if we could start taking note of that this is the first stage, that we still have to incorporate self-care throughout each phase of whatever we're doing, it's going to help us. So the second stage is onset of stress, and it's where the initial enthusiasm starts to waver, and you might even face challenges and stressors like feeling mild symptoms of burnout, feeling tired or unfulfilled, and even denying that anything's wrong or avoid dealing with anything that comes up. That could be an indicator to slow it down and take a closer look at how you're feeling, because maybe you've got that deadline. I always talk about infusing buffer time into a deadline that you put, because life happens. It doesn't just show up the way you expect it to. You can't just say 4 weeks from now I'm going to do this and not expect something to happen. because that's just not how life works. It just happens that way. That's things happen. Things will pop up out of nowhere, and we have to be able to deal with that. So having that buffer in place can help you to avoid going even further into the stages of burnout. Because if you are avoiding that anything's wrong, you have indicators that are saying to you it's time to slow it down, because maybe you are feeling tired, maybe you are feeling unfulfilled, maybe you are feeling a little bit detached from what you're doing or procrastinating. That's an indicator that you could be burning out. Now, chronic stress and burnout, that's stage 3. This is where you start feeling the physical effects of stress, leading to emotional exhaustion, overwhelm, feeling detached. You could even withdraw from social activities, and you may struggle with feelings of negativity all the time. So you might have been that glass is half full person, and all of a sudden you become more of a glass is half empty. Maybe you used to be an optimist about things, about how things would be in your life, and because you're not feeling so good at this stage, you start becoming more pessimistic towards everything that you're working towards. So it's really important for you to start looking at these stages seriously, because if you find yourself in any of these stages, if you find yourself the honeymoon phase and you've just kind of it just kind of came and went, and you find yourself now in stage 2, the onset of stress, this is going to be able to help you to realize, oh, okay, I'm feeling a certain way. I'm feeling really tired. Can I extend myself some grace here? Because I know something's happening. So how do I avoid this? Maybe that becomes that, like, that indicator. Oh, you might go through this a few times. By the way, I have done this multiple times until I stopped and realized what I'd been doing. But what happens is, as I was saying, you start to learn to put in that buffer time, like I do. I started putting in, if I had deadlines of, say, I had one deadline that was a 4-week deadline, and I decided to make it 7 weeks, because I wanted to make sure that the prep time, I really had the time to prepare for it. I really had the time also that when life would happen, that I didn't feel pressured to keep moving through it. Now, the final stage of burnout is crisis and burnout syndrome. And this involves complete burnout, where you can no longer function effectively in your day to day. Your physical and mental health problems become even more severe, which end up impacting every area of your life. And in some cases, you may even need to take a leave of absence from work, or shut down from everything that you're doing just so you can recover. I have talked with different women who have told me about their stories of burnout, and so I want to share a couple with you. I'm gonna change their name just for the sake of privacy, but I'm going to talk about Bonnie. So Bonnie, I talked to Bonnie. I did some like market research around burnout back in the latter part of 2023, and I spoke with 8 women in business, asking them to reflect on their experiences with burnout and the impact that it had on their lives. So some of those experiences, of course, shed light on signs of like coping strategies, the signs that were there, the consequences to face, and the lessons they learned from that brink of burnout. I also, just as a side note, I interviewed someone on my podcast. Her name is Cindy Brockway, who talked about that she had 4 massive burnout experiences. So definitely go check that out. My podcast is called Her Extraordinary Life by Design, and you can find it across all platforms, including on YouTube. You just find me under YouTube under my name, Leslie Godet, or just go look for wherever you listen to your podcast, and you will find her episode. It was for just from February, so it was really a good episode, and her insights on what she experienced. So let's talk about Bonnie. Bonnie described a time to me when she felt overwhelmed and on the brink of burnout. And she mentioned to me that she experienced signs and symptoms such as constant panic, her inability to focus, and worrying about unfinished tasks. She shared how she coped with the pressures and demands by telling me that she initially she wasn't practicing self-care at all, which really, of course, we know that can contribute to the problem when you're not taking care of yourself. And she realized that changes needed to be made in how she cared for herself. And she recognized the need to stop and prioritize her well-being. This is great that she had that self-awareness, because a lot of the time we don't. She implemented practices such as having quiet time in the morning, listening to inspiring music, learning techniques to deal with anxiety, and spending time outside. These practices helped her to regain balance and resilience. She She mentioned struggling to function beyond a basic level because she was neglecting her personal care and well being and feeling like that decreased motivation for daily activities. Despite her determination to keep going, her team noticed the impact and they provided support for her. Now, to recover from burnout and prevent it from happening again, Bonnie made changes in her approach to self care. She emphasized starting the day mindfully with quiet time and meditation. She also mentioned utilizing techniques to center herself throughout the day, drawing from Shirzad Shamin's work on positive intelligence, which work I am familiar with and I implement in my life. And Bonnie acknowledged that these strategies require consistent practice, right? Like anything, like a habit. To form a habit, you have to keep doing it. An ongoing commitment to prioritize your health and your well being. And this is what she said that she would do. So, reflecting on her experience, she was able to highlight the importance of her health as a top priority, and no longer feels guilty about taking time for herself, recognizing it as a critical investment in herself, because when she's investing in herself, she's taking care of her the best that she can, right? And she's then going to show up in other areas of her life as the best of herself. Her experience influenced her approach to self care and work life balance, shaping her understanding of the need for self care as a foundation for overall well being. So Sally was another woman that I connected with during my market research, and she shared her personal journey throughout burnout. And she described a time to me when she felt overwhelmed and on the brink of burnout. She was at the peak of her career, burdened with numerous responsibilities that caused her to dread going to a job she once loved. She experienced depleted energy levels, declining performance, and even developed anxiety that became increasingly difficult to manage. So during that challenging period, she found herself going through the motions, right? Just doing enough to get by. She didn't have any self-care practices or strategies in place, which further exacerbated her burnout. She just wasn't feeling good. She wasn't taking care of herself, and it was getting worse and worse. The consequences and the impacts of her burnout were significant. She missed deadlines, her work quality suffered, and her negative attitude affected her team. Now, she talked with me about how burnout unknowingly seeped into every aspect of her life, impacting both her work and her home environments in such a negative way that this made her more aware of the importance of addressing burnout and seeking balance. And so, to recover from burnout and prevent its recurrence, she made changes. So she's a single mom, and she knew that despite being that single mom and needing that income from her job, she realized that she needed a job that she couldn't quit. She knew that she needed support. So she sought outside support. She attended a workshop for women with anxiety where she learned how to meditate, which became an essential self-care practice for her. She also reintroduced running into her routine. She took long baths throughout, whenever she felt like doing that, she indulged in long baths. She treated herself to weekly facials as ways to prioritize herself and her well-being. They not only improved her performance, but also helped clear her mind, allowing her to develop an exit plan and reassess her priorities. Her burnout story has taught her the importance of having an exit plan for all her endeavors and being intentional with her time and actions. When I say exit plan, this is, she has other things that she wants to do with her life, but she also recognized that the necessity of taking care of herself by putting in those mandatory breaks throughout her day so she can help prevent her from getting down that into that burnout phase where she's, work quality is going down, as she would say, down the drain when I talk to her, regardless of how demanding her schedule or life may be. Her journey she said her journey opened her up to things that she had never experienced before through self-care, because now it's part of her routine. She understands the crucial role that it plays in maintaining her well-being. So now you might say that intentional self-care is time intrusive, because I know people seem to think that it is time intrusive, that you have so much on your plate, you possibly cannot find the time to fit anything else into your schedule. Or you might say that it's selfish, that you have responsibilities, obligations to other people, and that taking time for yourself is just a selfish, conceited act, thinking thinking that you're important, saying that you're important above other things, to put yourself first, that's selfish. And to pour into your cup first so that you can be the best version of yourself, you think, I get it. I used to be that way. I used to feel the same way, but I soon learned that when I put myself first, taking care of me the best that I can, that I not only got the best of me every single day, but everything in my life that I would do, and everyone else in my life that I would have interactions with, they would get that best version of myself. That's for me, pursuing the best version of yourself is you taking care of you. So let's look at the problems. Let's look at, for time sake of time, because I could go on and on and on. I actually want to just talk about some three common questions that are being searched about a lot on Google. So the first one is, how do I recognize the signs of burnout? The second one is, what are the first steps to take when feeling overwhelmed? And the number three is, how can I maintain a self-care routine with a busy schedule? So the first one is, how do I recognize the signs? So as I said, the first stage of burnout is the honeymoon phase. This is where you're experiencing enthusiasm, right? You're working on something new. You are expanding your business maybe, and you've got a new idea for it, and you've got a deadline, and you're pushing, and you think you have the energy. Well, you feel like you have the energy, and maybe you do the first couple of days or the first couple of weeks if you go. But if you keep moving along that trajectory of every single day of push without taking care of yourself, it's going to lead to the other stages of burnout, like onset of stress, the onset of stress, and chronic burnout, onset of stress, chronic stress and burnout, and then crisis and burnout syndrome. So I definitely don't think that you want to actually go down that road again. If you've been down that road, or to even travel down that road if you've never been. So what I would say is for you to start becoming more aware of your work style. Like, how do you work? Do you find yourself pushing through to meet deadlines without taking breaks? Again, I've talked about people. I've given you two examples of real life people. I just changed their names. These are their real stories. But when you think you have all the energy that you can do this without consequences, it's just not, it's not sustainable. My own personal story is that I did work that way. That was me. That was my style. And I found myself multiple times facing that, the onset of stress and getting to the chronic and stress burnout, because I was pushing and ignoring the signs that were staring me blatantly in the face. So when you create, when you start becoming more aware of your work style, and you learn how you are commonly maybe pushing through, and you start to become more aware of, like, oh, these are the reasons why this is happening. I become more tired a lot of the time. I find that I start to procrastinate at a certain time. I start to doubt myself at a certain time in the process. That could be your MO. Another thing is, when you create a deadline, do you add in buffer time? I talked about that earlier, like adding in that time to help you to be more efficient with your time, so that also you have self-care in there, but you're also being able to meet those deadlines without feeling like you have to push and leading you to burnout. So lean on your community for support, right? What are the first steps to take when you're feeling overwhelmed? Well, this is the second question I want to answer is looking at your calendar. Like, what are you putting on your calendar? Is it in alignment with where you're at in your journey right now? Not the bigger picture, because a lot of the time we look at the bigger picture when we're creating our daily tasks in such a way that we're thinking too big. We're thinking like how to achieve now what's meant for later down the road. So if that's you, are you able to dial it back? Like, can you dial it back a little bit and work on what's needed in the time frame that you're working in right now? Yes, of course, there's a bigger picture, a bigger goal. But how can you look at that bigger goal by chunking it into what's needed right now to meet a smaller goal that will help you achieve a milestone, which is a stepping stone for the next bigger piece of the puzzle? Extend yourself grace, because we're so hard on ourselves. We're hard on ourselves more than others are. We'll beat ourselves up over and over about mistakes that we've made and not allow ourselves to move on, like to move forward. Instead, keep ourselves stuck in the negative. But I also want you to acknowledge your feelings, because they're real. Recognize that feeling overwhelmed is a signal from your body and mind that something needs to change, and you might start feeling in your emotions about how this is like disrupted. But just acknowledge those feelings without judgment, And that will be the first step towards managing them. Take a pause, take a break, breathe, learn to breathe. Have you ever found yourself like you found yourself like so stressed out that you forget to breathe? Again, when I say learn to prioritize your tasks by looking at your calendar, you're going to find that you're going to be able to do things more efficiently because you look at like what is on my calendar right now. What can I look at that can make this week a successful week in the things that I'm doing, so that I can then look at, it's for this particular week goal that's going to accomplish this month's goal. It's one step at a time. And next week is going to get me closer. And the third week is going to get me closer. And then you're in the final week. And then you're going to meet that monthly overall goal, which is going to help you to 1 month goal. It was just going to get you closer to that quarterly goal. Like really chunk it down, because that will wait. And then again, still having that bird's eye view is fine, but not overwhelming yourself to the point that you're looking at so many things farther down the road that needs to be left alone right now. Because sometimes too, by the way, you'll be doing something amazing will reveal itself, and you might pivot a little. So that gives you that little bit of flexibility. The third question, how can I maintain a self-care routine with a busy schedule? For me, again, it comes down to how you manage your time, how you structure your day, and also having clarity in what your vision is, what the bigger goal is, and how you break it into manageable steps for each quarter, month, week, and day. And once you have clarity on your vision, the bigger goal, again, I just talked about it, you work backwards and you really set those, you create those weekly goals, and then you chunk it down into your dailies, and making sure that the time frame is going to work for what you've set for your goal. Maybe you have to cut things in half and give yourself those breaks. I like what Brendan Burchard calls the weekly goals. He calls them Friday finishers. I like his Friday finishers. I like his concept of having a goal that you want to complete it by Friday, and then you map out your week. I think that's pretty cool. And also make sure you keep top of mind to protect your time, so that you say yes to things that align, that fit, and that don't overwhelm you. And that you're putting self-care on your calendar first, please. I'm asking you for your mental well-being, for your overall well-being. Put self-care on your calendar first. Take care of you first, because again, take care of you the best you can. You get the best of you, and so does everyone and everything else in your life. So as we wrap up today's conversation, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on your current self-care practices. So ask yourself, am I prioritizing my well-being as much as I prioritize my business and my team? And it's not about acknowledging the importance. It's not just about acknowledging the importance of self-care, okay? It's about taking that first step towards integrating meaningful self-care practices into your daily routine. Because remember, prioritizing your well-being isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for sustaining your success and the health of your business. If you find that your self-care needs more attention, consider this a call to action. Start small, perhaps by setting clearer boundaries or incorporating short mindfulness exercises into your day, bringing yourself back to the present moment with some breath work. Every small change, and of course, make sure, before I even say anything else, make sure you take those breaks in. So important. Give your brain a rest. Get outside, enjoy life. Life is not all about working. It's about actually enjoying life. You don't get into business because you want to work more. You get into business to have more quality of life. And every small change can lead to significant improvements in your overall well-being and your productivity. Now, if you should be eager for deeper insights or assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. By adopting a holistic approach to business, we can work together to devise a strategy that not only fits your unique requirements, but fosters both your personal growth and professional success as the CEO of your business and your team. So direct message me for more details on how we can tailor a plan that supports you and your team in thriving in every aspect of life and work. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.